it really tells a lot about the community that your superintendent of schools is over here cleaning the floor.
I think I found a job I can do.
Actually, I'm the same way. That's one I know I can do as well. But what's going on in this clinic is quite moving, and it's like in some ways like going through the looking glass. But it's people volunteering, providing help to people who need help, and it does open the door pretty wide on this issue of healthcare, people not getting the access that they need. And I'm not going to make the case for the Affordable Health Care Act as a result of seeing this, but because the most important thing is to make the case that the community's doing the right thing. They're volunteering for 3 or 4 days, and it's quite moving to see it. I appreciate very much the opportunity to take a tour of Alliance and see a lot of things that are going on. And I wish I had a chance to see the theater, but it's quite impressive that the people of Alliance support their school, because it's key. If our kids don't get a good education, it's very difficult for us to be successful. And it's not easy today. It's much harder, I think, if you're a student and/or a teacher or administrator, much harder than it was back in the good old days when I went to school. Because when I went to school, I went to grade school and high school in Lincoln, and when I graduated from high school, Lincoln Northeast in 1961, you didn't have to read or write to get a job that could support a family. There were jobs all over the place. Burlington Northern, the shops in Lincoln, the Gooch's, Goodyear. These were jobs, all of which had pensions, all of which had health care, all of which paid enough, that would support a family. And you didn't need a lot of skills for those jobs. And all those jobs are, not all of them, but a fair number of them have disappeared. And so a kid going to high school today, it's a much bigger challenge. And I very much appreciate the community's support for the school system, because it's the key, always has been and always will be, to building a better community. In addition, the key in every single community that's successful that I've seen, and there's a lot of success in Nebraska today. There's a lot of good things going on at the community level, and typically it requires somebody taking the lead, somebody willing to build something. The Knight Museum, and that's a great story of a very philanthropic family that made a gift to that museum. But you've got what, 180 acres of parkland in the city of Alliance. It may be the most parkland per capita of any community in the state. Well, that didn't happen by accident. Putting the money up to get that fountain restored that was built by the WPA, I'm sure there were people who were opposed to it, but it improves the quality of life in the community. And I having been senator before and having been governor before, I'll tell you that one of the things I like to do is work with community leaders, because oftentimes all you really need is a partner to help with the project. Maybe it's federal money sometimes it's federal money, sometimes it's just get the Pentagon to do the right thing, and oftentimes it's trying to get a private sector bureaucracy to do the right thing. There's real power in these offices, and I like to bring whatever experiences and skill I have to bear to helping communities become stronger. And so I'm running mostly because I'm very much worried about what's going on in Washington. And when I left the Senate in January 2001, we were paying off debt. And the 90s was hard. It was hard to balance that budget. And we started in 1990 with President Bush. Had the political courage. It took real courage for him to say, I know I said no new taxes, read my lips, but he said, if the Democrats agree to spending restraint, I'll support a tax increase. Bill Clinton had his budget in 93, a bit more controversial, but 90 was hard. Alan Simpson tells a story about going back out to Cody, Wyoming after that budget vote. He voted for it, and he said that somebody walked up to him on the streets of Cody, Wyoming, and he said, Senator, I've always supported you, but after that budget vote, I wouldn't vote for you again if you were Jesus Christ. And Simpson, notorious for a good sense of humor, looked down at him and said, buddy, if I was Jesus Christ, I wouldn't be representing Wyoming. The point that he's making is that it's not easy, you know, and the deficit is much bigger now than it was in the 1990s. And what it necessitates is people being willing to put their country first. It's going to take Republicans and Democrats crossing party lines and working together, because the Democratic answer isn't going to be right. The Republican answer isn't going to be right. The only way you're going to get it done is for Republicans and Democrats to work together. You know, I was asked next door, did I support Obamacare? There's a lot in there I'd like to change, and I think the biggest mistake that Democrats made was making it a partisan bill. I've plenty to criticize about the Republicans' unwillingness to participate, but there were Republicans willing to participate. It's way too controversial, it's way too big, it's way too emotional. And it'd been far better if you got Republican and Democrats saying, we have to do it this way, we have to make change happen, because this is a messed up system. We've got a big program, Medicaid, that desperately needs to be fixed. The rules and regulations under Medicaid are different than the rules and regulations under Medicare. The private insurance have their own set of rules, and what you see next door is a demonstration that oftentimes it really doesn't matter whether you have insurance. I'm sure that many people next door have insurance. The question is, do you have access to a dentist? Can you get in and get the treatment that you need? And so I would say I think the law made it better. I think the governor's wrong not to create a state insurance exchange. It gives us for the first time the opportunity to create a vehicle. I started in business in Nebraska in '73, and I look at that and I say, I think this will work. Because you'll pool lots of individuals and businesses. You'll provide subsidies where they're needed, and you don't have subsidies if you don't need them. And I think the more people we can pool inside those exchanges, the more likely it is that individuals and businesses are going to be able to afford it. The expansion of Medicaid is more controversial, but I know who these individuals are. They're from 100 to 133% of poverty. They're working. They're probably working in this restaurant. You don't have to go very far to find these individuals. These are not welfare bums. These are individuals that are in the workplace, and they just happen to be working for an employer that doesn't provide the care. And under the law will take care of the kids, but it won't take care of the parents. And you know, I'm all favor of taking care of the kids, but if the parents get sick, it's going to be difficult for them to take care of the kids as well. So, as I said, there's lots in this bill that I would change, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you've got about it. But I start by believing that the Democrat and the Republican caucuses in lots of ways have become a problem. I am a Democrat. I'm say here in this hotbed of Democratic activity here in Bonneville County. And I'll tell you why. I believe in economic and social justice, and I think at times the law's got to be on your side. It saved my life in 1969 when I came back from Vietnam. I spent 8 or 9 years in and out of the VA hospital in Lincoln and Omaha, Nebraska. I didn't have enough money to pay for my own health care. That's true, the government almost killed me just before they saved my life. You know, those were government doctors and government nurses and government medical technicians and government maintenance people. And yes, Legion Auxiliary was there, my family helped me, my church helped me, and lots of other people helped me. But boy, if that law hadn't been on my side, I'd been in deep trouble. I started business in '73, a tornado wiped us out in '75. I understand that when I started the business, you know, the permitting agencies drove me crazy. I mean, you can't even employ yourself unless the Department of Labor gives you permission. So I don't have to be taught about the problems with too much regulation. But then we get blown away in a tornado in May 1975, and if it weren't for federal disaster declaration, I wouldn't have succeeded. We were able to put our business. So I don't think it's as simple as saying government's always bad or government's always right. It's almost always going to be a sort of a mixed blessing. And the question is, can we work together? Can you put your state's and your nation's interests ahead of whatever your political caucus is to get the job done? So anyway, those of you who have watched me over the years know that I'm not afraid of controversy. I think that oftentimes the most controversial subjects are the most important to resolve. And I'll give you an example of that. The issue of immigration. We haven't changed that law since 1986. Not since '86, and it's tearing states and communities apart. And the other day, Governor Romney gave a speech, and he moved to fair distance. And a number of people in my party called him a flip-flopper. Well, okay, maybe he is a flip-flopper, but who isn't? So I endorsed his proposal. And And Deb Fisher said, no, I can't support Governor Romney's position. Well, you're not going to be a part of the solution if you can't even get to the center of your own political party. And it's a problem that's got to be resolved for a whole range of reasons, not the least of which is there's an awful lot of good people coming up from Mexico and Central America. They're working hard, they're saving their money, they're holding together as a family, they go to church on Sunday, and a lot of them don't feel welcome here. They're trying to stay on the right side of the law, they're trying to keep the documents current. Yes, you've got people here illegally, but the ones that are here legally recently are feeling unwelcome as well, and that's not good for us. If you don't make somebody feel welcome in your community, it's not likely they're going to stay and invest. In Skyler's become 60% Hispanic as a result of 2,200 jobs in Cargill. And I talked to a woman that runs a grocery store there, and I promise you, you'd love to have her living in Alliance. This woman she had her act together. She was running the store, she was running a good store, running a good operation. She's here legally, she's applied for citizenship, which will take her at least 5 years to get done. And by the way, once she's done, she'll probably know more than I did when I became a voting citizen and I was 18 years old. I wouldn't mind sort of everybody that runs for Congress have to take the naturalization examination to find out if you know as much as a newly formed U.S. citizen. Anyway, when I asked her about how she feels, she said, well, I like it. I like the opportunity in America. It's a free country, and there's more opportunity here in Mexico, which is why I'm here. But I don't feel welcome, and I don't know if I'm going to stay. I came from Acapulco, and she said, I don't know how to say this other than directly, but she said, I ask you, if you had a choice between living in Acapulco and Schuyler, where'd you go? Well, I have a good point there. And so we got to get this immigration thing solved, and I know it's controversial, but it's a terrific example of something that if you think that your answer has to be the right answer, you're never going to get it done. It's going to take compromise to get this thing behind us. And we're not going to get perfection. We're not going to get it 100% right. Anyway, so as I said, I don't mind courting unpopular and controversial things because they have to be. That's where the action is. That's you can't build almost anything without somebody saying that you shouldn't be doing it. So it's very nice to be traveling the state again. So if you know this about campaigns, and one of the nice things about elections is eventually they end. There's absolutely no ambiguity with an election. There's only two possibilities, and what you have to do, I know how to do the job of being a senator. I'm not going to have to be trained to do that, and I know that from the moment that if I end up being senator-elect on the 7th of November, there's about 60 days between the 7th of November and the time my hand comes off the Bible when the work begins. And because we've postponed so many fiscal issues, that's really going to start on the 7th. So what a campaign represents in a lot of ways is like a camel storing up water before it crosses the desert. So I get a chance to go out and travel and see what people are doing, and I learn a lot in the process. So what I'd like to do, if you don't mind, is shut up, actually, and let you either ask questions or tell me some of the problems that you might be having, no child left behind, or other sections like that.
I'm going to start this just because